sure at this point everyone knows who I am, but I'm Melissa Mackey. I'm the Director of Research here at ILS, and I want to welcome you to our 10th Data Officer Training. We were looking through our website yesterday, Riley and Nick and I we realized this will be the 10th Data Officer Training that we're having. And so for those of you who've been here since day one, we have to get you some gold stars for all of our OG data officers and such. So today what we're going to do, Riley has decided that it would be a great opportunity now that she has completed talking to almost, I think, all of the data officers, right? You've had a conversation with all of the data officers to spend part of this morning talking with a couple of our data officers, Terry Blosser and Joa Hung Wu, and giving some feedback about what their experiences have been. But first we thought we would have Claire Zartarian, who is one of the implementation attorneys on the statewide team, give us some background and overview. There's a lot of conversation right now about the courts opening back up and having in-person court appearances again. And so I'm sure that it's a topic that as the data officers out in the county that you're hearing your provider offices talk about. And so we thought it would be a great opportunity to have Claire just give us some background information, and you can ask some questions. And so then after that, Riley will jump in and introduce our two data officers. So Claire, take it away.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes. Excellent,
thank you. So I just want to thank everyone who's on this call and in this meeting. This is my first opportunity to address all of the data officers together, and I think that in many ways you have the most challenging job in criminal defense reform in New York State. So you are coordinating all this data collection, all this reporting for each of your counties. You're implementing new protocols. You're asking people to do things differently than the way they ever have before. And that is not easy. So I just want to say you have my utmost respect and gratitude for the very, very difficult work that you do. So as many of you know, on June 24th of this year, the governor issued Executive Order 210. And this executive order rescinded the previous executive orders that had allowed for virtual arraignments, amongst other things. So for many counties, if not all of them, this was a very abrupt and challenging transition. And in the urgency of ensuring that all of the components of that transition are operating smoothly and everyone's showing up where and when they are supposed to, it's so important and crucial to be mindful of the impact that the transition may be having on your data collection practices. So, you know, whether things are in person, whether they are virtual, the data collection has to be consistent and accurate, and this can present new challenges depending on how the attorneys are appearing and what's happening in the courts and where the courts are taking place. And also depending on what the future holds and what may be coming in the fall, we don't know. Of course, the systems have to be prepared to pivot back to virtual if that is something that happens in the future. We really don't know. So navigating how to appropriately capture all of this information that we'll need to be reporting is so important. And I think that our research staff has been fully available, and any questions that anyone might have about how to capture this data, what to capture, everyone is available, and I'm available for whatever I can offer in terms of insight or guidance. So if there are any questions about the transition to in-person operations, I'm happy to field them. But I know that the focus of this meeting is on data collection. So I want to, I'm ready to turn the floor over if there aren't any questions.
I don't see anything in the chat box, so I think we can move on. But if questions arise throughout, we can also go back to Claire at the end of today's presentation. So.
Well, thank you all very much, and for all the work that you do.
Okay, well, thank you, Melissa, for the introduction. Happy 10th Data Officer Training, although it is only my second. And thank you, Claire, for that update on the return to in-person court appearances. That'll definitely have an impact on data. So we, the research team, are also happy to field those questions as they come up. So I am Riley Weinstein, the Data Outreach Officer for ILS. And as I mentioned at our last Data Officer Training back in June, which feels like yesterday, actually, but here we are. I have been reaching out to data officers across the state for individual calls. And the purpose has been for us to get better acquainted and also for me to get a deeper understanding of the challenges related to data collection and reporting in each county so that we at ILS can better support all of you in that. And it has, in these calls, it's become very clear that there's a lot of, it really varies across the counties in terms of what that data collection process looks like, the challenges that you're facing, and even just the way the data officer role is designed. And in spite of those differences, some common themes have emerged. So I'm quickly just going to talk a little bit about that, and then I'll turn it over to our data officers for their presentations. But a big barrier that has come up is that data officers don't always have the necessary resources to collect, verify, and report all the data that's needed for all of our reports. And this can be due to a lack of a case management system. Some providers in the county might have it, others may not. It can also be difficult sometimes to access data from other provider offices. So if a data officer is sitting in the public defender's office, they may find it difficult to get any information from, for example, a assigned counsel program. I also noticed that many of you are wearing multiple hats. So you're performing multiple roles, maybe data officer and grants manager or ACP administrator. So I want to commend you for that. That has to be very challenging. And of course, that is in no way a problem to have those multiple roles, but I do appreciate the challenge that may bring. And in spite of all these challenges, there have been a lot of positive themes that have come out of these calls. First, there's a lot of innovation. So some of you have developed spreadsheets and forms specific to the ILS 195, and you're giving those to attorneys and then back to data entry staff. So you've really developed some very strategic systems, even in the absence of an electronic case management system. So that's great. And I've also noticed that some of you are taking a lot of initiative and working with administrators and IT personnel to develop programmatic and technological solutions to some of these problems. So thank you so much for all of your hard work, and congratulations on the progress. So we will have a little bit more time if anyone wants to speak to certain challenges they're facing or solutions they've identified. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to our data officers to share their experiences. So first up, we have Jahong Wu from Albany County. So whenever you're ready, Nick, I think you can just give Jahong the screen sharing permission. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Riley, for your introduction. I'm Jiahong Wu, a data officer in Albany County. And before I start my presentation, I would like to thank ILS for their guidance to help us solve some data collection issues and for the opportunity to share our experience. I joined Albany County in 2020 June, and before that, we only have a part-time employee doing data collection. So the staff needed to review 2,000 claim forms per year and keep tracking all the expenditure for every case. So back to them, about a year ago, the data collection in Albany County Aside Counsel program is solely for financial payment information. And for the past year, our program grew from a part-time employee to a team of 4.5 people. And the major mission of our team is to build an infrastructure to collect data and to file the report to ILS. And our first challenge in data collection is that we don't have means to collect and store digital data. For this issue, we first use ILS 195 report as a reference to create ILS data form. And we did it for criminal court case and appellate court case, and use this form to collect data and interact with our panel attorneys. And then we use PDCMS to collect data in digital form and also store those data. And we also create a procedure to collect data in PDCMS and verify data as well. I will talk about this procedure later. Once we have this system ready, the next challenge is that how do we get those information from our attorneys? Since our panel attorneys don't have this experience before. So we create an ACP web page, and our program administrator and the supervising attorney, they use this ACP web page and the ILS data form to work with our panel attorneys to get the information from them. And they did this very well. Since we launched this new system in 2021, Q2, the claim form that we received with required ILS data increased from 0% to 90%. And the whole process was done within 6 months. So back to a year ago in 2020, we only received claim form without enough information for 195 report part 2 from our panel attorneys. So a year ago, we need to contact our panel attorney to get this information. And now we already have more than 90% of claim form with ILS, with the data form which has information for 195 report part 2 and part 3. And another challenge that we have in data collection is that in Albany County, judge, they do case assignment, so we don't have any case assignment information. And our panel attorneys, they don't often submit their claim form in time. So our assumption that the total number of claim form that we received in a year equal to the total number of cases closed in a year may not be accurate. So to solve this issue, we create an attorney verification form. And in this form, we put all the cases that we received from an attorney to it and send this information to our panel attorney for them to verify their number of cases and their case information. And at this point, we already have 95% out of 115 attorneys replied to our form and confirmed their number and the data. So that's a very good progress that we have achieved within a year. And once we got the data from our panel attorneys, then we will key in those information into the PDCMS system, and then create the numbers for the ILS 195 report. So the next question is that, how do we know the data was accurately keyed into the system? And for this issue, we use PDCMS diagnostic report to verify the data stored in PDCMS. And I'm also working with Public Defender Office and the Conflict Defender Office. So I use the same procedure to work with 3 offices to verify their data. And this is our data verification process. First, every office they create their own diagnostic report. Here is an example of the report. So in this report, it has all the information for 195 questions, including part 2 and part 3. And there is no confidential information. So this information can be shared to data officer from multiple offices. And then I use the release note from NISTA to verify the data in each column or in each questions. And here's an example of the release note for data verification for the case type and the case category. So following the instruction, I can identify, for example, here, you can see the orange color highlight. I can find that there is no information in this case. So I highlight this cell and the color code the color of the highlight. And for this case, there's no case category. And I did it for all the case information in all the report, and summarize how many issues that I found and what type of issue it is. Then I send this report along with the color coding table back to each office for them to fix the error. And we repeat this process every 2 months to make the data clean. And when it's time to submit the ILS 195 report, we will be very comfortable and have confidence that the data is accurate. And while we are doing this data verification process with every office, we found that there's one issue. So the data entry error always happen again and again. And we have about 13 people doing data entry in Oakland County. So I figured the best way is to have a training session with all the data entry people, so they know how to key in the data accurately. So we work with NISTA to have a data entry training session. And in this session, Darlene Dollar from NISTA, she helped us to review all the errors that we found in all reports from 3 offices and talk about the impact of the error in 195 report and how to prevent it. And we did this training session in 2021 April. And so before we did this training session, we found like about 80 errors in, let's say, case category, these questions. And after this training session, the errors dropped from 80 to 20. So this is how we improve the data entry accuracy with all the data entry steps in Oakland County. And our next step to increase the data accuracy is that we want to get the case assignment information from the judges. And we are currently working with different judges to get this information. But for example, in the criminal court in Oakland County, judges, they have different kind of system and a different kind of approach to do the case assignment. So in order to get this information, we are working with administrative judges to develop a method to get this assignment information. And for the appellate court, they have a centralized system for the case assignment, and they are very happy to work with us. So now we are working with the administrator there to develop a procedure to get the assignment information. And we know it takes time to get this assignment information from the judges. So we have a backup plan, which is to get this information from our panel attorneys And now we are in the process of updating our attorney verification form. We expect to use this form to get assignment information from our panel attorneys as well. So that's our current progress. And if you have any suggestion or questions, please feel free to share with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
I was writing them down. So that was a great presentation, and I want to commend you on all of the work that you've done, and and also the provider offices being so open to working so closely with you on this. This is fantastic. So, do I understand correctly? Do you have access to the data for all three providers, the PD, the conflict defender, and the assigned counsel? Are they three separate systems, or are they all in the same PDCMS?
They are all using PDCMS, but I don't have access to their system because of the confidential issue, but they will share the diagnostic report from their system. So like every 2 months, I will just contact the staff there saying, hey, we are going to review your data. Please prepare your diagnostic report from what time to what time, and then they will create this report for me. And I do data review and then send my review back to them for them to fix the issues.
Oh, that's fantastic. So did you create, I know that PDCMS, Darlene and I'm not sure who else was there, but Darlene gave ILS, a couple of us, a presentation about the diagnostic report. Mm-hmm. Do you use the one that, the kind of canned diagnostic report, or were you able to create your own diagnostic report?
I used the one shared by Dada.
Okay, great, fantastic, fantastic. I think that was it, but I think that's fantastic. And you're also working with the administrative judge, you said, to get information on the case assignments for the assigned counsel. And we know that's a critical piece. So I'll be interested to see what they're able to come up with. What we find is that there are usually, as you said, different judges have different practices. So there are usually different methods, but the court clerks can also be helpful, I think, that we found.
Yes, we also work with court clerk as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. That was all that I had, but thanks. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, as Melissa said, that's really excellent, fantastic. I'm so glad that you're doing all of that. And thank you so much for all of your hard work and collaboration with other staff and administrators. I also love that you can track your own progress in terms of reducing the errors from 80 to 20%. So that's wonderful. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think we're ready for our next presentation then from Terry Blosser from Orange County. So Terry, whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Riley. Data Officer Wu, that was so very interesting. Thank you so much for putting together that PowerPoint. Very, very interesting indeed. Well, good afternoon to my fellow county data officers, everyone at ILS, and any other interested watchers. My name is Terry Blosser, and I am the ILS data officer for Orange County, New York. Orange County has about 380,000 residents. We are located south of Sullivan County, north of Rockland County, and to the west of Putnam and Westchester counties. If my geographical landmarks are Greek to you, if you got in a boat in New York City and the Hudson River went north about 60 miles, we would be on the left. Some other landmarks in Orange County: we are home to the United States Military Academy for the Army, West Point, which overlooks the Hudson River. Also overlooking the Hudson River, General Washington had his headquarters in Newburgh, New York, which is now a New York State historical site. Also, Orange County choppers got their start in Orange County, New York, not Florida or California. We are home to Stewart Airport, which is part of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Our county seat is Goshen, where we have the Harness Racing Museum and Hall of Fame. And most recently in Goshen, we opened Legoland, which is the first amusement park to open in the Northeast in the last 40 years. So a lot of fun to live in Orange County. We have a county executive in Orange County. His name is Steve Newhouse. He is doing a fantastic job and is very supportive of the work that we are doing with the Hurrell Herring Grant. We also have an elected county legislature, county clerk, county district attorney, and county sheriff. We have a legal aid society of Orange County and an assigned counsel program. I started with Orange County in October of 2019. Yes, I am an OG data officer, as Melissa said. And I attended the very first data officer training, which was November 19th in Albany. At that time, my primary contact with ILS was Joanne McCree, and she was great. I loved working with her. She was always accessible and always very interested in whatever we had to report. And she regularly asked the data officers just to please not quit. But since Joanne has left, my primary kind of go-to person at ILS is Melissa Mackey, who is the Director of Research. If you have not watched that training from November 19th and the many things that Melissa shares, I urge you to. Melissa's been doing this a long time, and everything that she has in her presentation just shows that. So at the data officer training, our assigned counsel panel administrator came with me, as did a member of his staff. At that point, I had not met the Legal Aid Society yet, and unfortunately, they didn't come to the training with me. I remember we had a break at one point, and I asked the assigned counsel administrator, so we have a computer program, right? There was talk of counting cases and computer programs, and he said no, which was kind of a scary thought. After we left the meeting, we had to make some decisions. Are we going to use one of the vendors that presented themselves? Or we had another option. Here in Orange County, our family law department was using software developed by a local vendor for scheduling and case management. And legal aid was also using a program developed by the same company as well. Our family law department has been using that software since 2010. So there was a proven track record there. That same person had also done some preliminary work on electronic vouchers, because we did and still do to this day have paper vouchers for our 18B panel, which means that the counting of the cases is done by hand as well. So going back to my early time, so after I left the data officer training, I spent a lot of time. One thing I did was I read about the first case, and I recently had somebody start in the department, and I kind of had them recreate what I had done on my own. So the first thing is just to identify the 5 counties where the cases were and the 20 plaintiffs. And I had him write them out. We have them hanging on our wall in our office. I'll show you here. So I also had him write a little synopsis of each of the cases, and then identify which of the 4 things from the lawsuit applied to those cases, whether it be lack of counsel at first appearance, not being arraigned within 12 hours, the quality of the representation, or the attorney being overloaded, because I wanted to make sure with the amount of money that we were getting from this grant that these things never happened again, particularly in Orange County under our watch. The other thing that I did was I spent a lot of time watching the videos that ILS had on the website, and one in particular was from the winter of 2018 and the summer of 2019. And I watched it over and over and over, and I eventually just transcribed the whole meeting. If you'd like a copy of it, I could certainly make it available to you guys. If you haven't watched it, it's still on the website. I would urge you to watch it. There were little things that I picked up, like classifying by the top charge. And they talk about a link to the DCJS report and using that list for classifying charges. So although it was just a brief line in the video, it really stuck out to me that whatever program we use, we better be using the DCJS table and update it regularly. So long story short, we decided to move forward with the vendor that we had started exploring the electronic vouchering with. And so then we had to explain to him, well, what is it that we need? So I provided to him my notes from that meeting, and I'm proud to say that the contract attorney in our office incorporated the documents that I developed from the ILS video into the vendor contract, which speaks volumes to the work that ILS does. The other person that helped tremendously was Melissa Mackey. When the vendor had questions about the details of writing the code for this program, we got Melissa on the phone, and she was very specific about what they needed. And what we needed to do was almost code any discretion that the lawyers would have out of the equation. And I think that we have done that. So fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, we started launching it with judges and attorneys. And I was very excited, so I called Melissa and told her, and we had a group meeting like this. And the developer presented the program to ILS. So the idea with the program is that each attorney has on their cell phone a program, and his idea was that nobody has taught you how to use any app on your phone. They don't come with instructions. The program intuitively prompts you through. And so we are able to use that with them. Am I able to share my screen? I want to see. That is, are you guys able to see that? Anybody?
Yep, give it a second. Nick, now he just made you the host, so try it again.
Okay. Very good. So this is the view from a website browser, which is different than they see on their phone. But so the information is entered by the attorney. You can see there.
Hold on, we still just see you.
All right. All right. So, well, you've seen it. So
we'll take your word for it.
Yeah, the data center. So one of the features that we didn't even ask for, and the developer wrote into it, is a timer. So when when the attorneys are in the courtroom and they start work, they hit the timer on and the timer off. And I said, do we know whether or not they're using that feature? And he said yes, and so do the judges. So that is a helpful thing from billing and just helping the attorneys get the information entered. So we've made the program available to ILS, and anybody could take a look at it. And if you're looking for a program, we would just appreciate feedback. It's finite, F as in Frank, INITE, systems.net/Eve. You're welcome to use it. The username is attorney. The password is test. You can't break it. It's only a test site. So the rollout that we have had, the vendor has told me that the judges are very happy with it. It's the attorneys have seemed happy with it. No negative reactions to it. We've had one case close and be submitted for payment. Our goal is to eventually have the submission to our finance department electronic as well. What was I going to say? I don't know, Melissa, did you want to comment? I mean, because you've seen it, and the ILS had some great suggestions. So one, the program produces the ILS 195. Yay! It will also produce our performance measures progress report. Yay! And also because it captures financial information, it'll help us in budgeting, because we will know what we've spent for the second chairs, for the mentors, because the program is able to differentiate between the taxation part, which our taxation dollars pay for the 18B panel, and also which part is paid for by the grant. So those are set by default. So if you utilize an investigator as second chair, that gets coded to the HH grant, not the taxation dollars. I'd just like to say, kind of in closing, all the trainings that I've been to from ILS, they're great, but I always struggle with wow, other people need to know this. A couple things. One, even just the history of the Corel Herring grant. I did a kind of a test run at our Legal Aid Society, and people just think it's another grant, and it's not just another grant. This is very different than other grants. So I think to let the staff and even the attorneys know, this is the history. There were 5 counties, 20 plaintiffs. This is what happened, and we don't want to make sure it doesn't happen again. 2, there's people, especially the research team at ILS, who are really concerned about the way the cases are being counted, and here's how they like it done. I know how they like it done. I've heard it, but that needs to be pushed down to both our 18B panels and our Legal Aid Society, or whatever you have, public defender or conflict defender. And lastly, just, some kind of, how do we collect that data from them, whether it's our program that we have on the phones or the tablets, or like Data Officer Wu said, the program that he has. And I liked a lot of the points that he brought up about the mistakes that are being made. So my suggestion is that we start a push to push all of these great practices that we've had down to the staff and attorneys. And I think that's it. Did I cover everything, Melissa?
I think so. Riley, was there anything else?
No, I think you covered everything. Thank you so much for all your work that you've done to help develop EVE. And myself and some of the research team got to see that presentation from Terry and Dr. Downs, who developed it, and it was really awesome. We got to also beta test, so I can say that it was very user-friendly, and they even have a built-in portion where users can give feedback, so adjustments can be made as needed. So I really appreciated that too. Melissa, did you want to say anything about?
Right. So Terry, thank you so much for coming and giving us an overview of what your experience as a data officer has been. I think that, one of the things that we talk about here in the research team is how do we keep evolving this group of data officers that we have within the counties? And as Riley mentioned, you guys have different challenges, different experiences, but some common themes. And so we know that sometimes access to the information that you would need to kind of do some data verification, data validation can be difficult because of the confidentiality issues, as Joao mentioned. And so I think what we're going to try to do moving forward, and what Riley and the team and what we've talked about, is how we can work with individual data officers to kind of optimize the work that you do. And, how can we help to improve and facilitate really strong working relationships between data officers and all of the providers within their county. And so now that we have Riley here, we're going to start talking more about that and how we can be more of a resource for you guys. And the other thing I wanted to mention, over the last couple of years, we've really worked here, the research team, to get a better understanding of all of the different CMS systems that are being used. We have access to PDCMS, and we have ongoing meetings with NYSDA. As Terry mentioned, we were able to see what EVE looked like. That was developed by Dr. Downs. We've had presentations on Legal Server. That's also used by the Legal Services of Hudson Valley, who have our first model family court office. And so what we realized, we often have a lot of questions about, what case management system providers will come to us. What should we use to meet all of these reporting requirements? And we can't know the specific needs of each provider office. So what we're doing, what we're going to send out today, the National Association of Public Defenders several years ago did a survey of various case management systems. And so we are going to update that survey based on the case management systems that the vendors that were identified in the April 2021 performance measures. So each of the vendors will be receiving a link later today to a Question Pro survey. And so we would ask that the vendors, that survey is about different functionality as it relates to case management and data reporting. And so we'll ask that all of the vendors complete that information and return it to us. We're going to summarize it. We'll share that summary with each of the vendors to make sure that we've accurately portrayed what they intended us to portray. And then we're going to put it in a summary document of all of the responses that we had, and then make that available on the website and make that available to any of the other provider offices who currently don't have a case management system and they're trying to make a decision about that. So that's what we will be working on. And so data officers, you can be aware that that'll go out, and you may be getting questions about it. We're asking that all the questions be directed to Nick, but we wanted to make sure that the data officers were aware that survey is going out. So the last thing that I want to say is that I've had a lot of conversations as the names start popping up and everybody's logging in. I was able to, prior to Riley being here, have a lot of conversations and discuss a lot of different things over these last 9, now 10 data officer meetings. And so it's been challenging, I know, as we first started out to figure out how all of this was going to work. It's still evolving, but each of you that I've spoken to, and I'm so impressed by how you are navigating this role. And I know that Riley's looking forward to working with you, taking the baton from me and the rest of the team and working with you moving forward. But as Claire also said, you're doing the hard work. We couldn't do this without you. There's no way that we could, with a staff of 6, 7 researchers, be out there doing this work. And so we greatly appreciate your dedication and that you're sticking with us throughout this. That's all I wanted to say, which is a lot. We all know I use lots of words.
All right.
Anyone else have any questions? You can reach out. We're getting together a directory. That's one of the things that Riley is working on. And so then we'll have a directory that we'll make available to everyone. And so you can start meeting. So Riley, do you want to mention anything else or wrap things up?
Yeah, sure. Just for 1 minute, does anyone have any other questions they would like to ask about anything that we've talked about today, or any comments, anything that you want to share? Just want to give that a minute. Okay, well, it looks like Carrie put the link to Eve, if you guys do want to check that out, and she also put her contact information in there. I think that's all I have for today. I again want to thank our presenters. Thank you so much, and all of you, thank you for all the work that you have done, and for speaking with me over the phone individually. If I did somehow miss you and not get to you, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we can schedule a call. So that's it. Thank you all.